Hi everyone, my name is Manuel. I'm the product manager of our UI tool Embedded Wizard, and I warmly welcome you to show you in the next couple of minutes the new features, the new enhancements, the add-ons, and the great stuff that we did with our new release Embedded Wizard version 11. Before going ahead, I'd just like to switch off the webcam so that you get to see most of that, and I'd like to start Embedded Wizard 11. So first of all, I'd just like to create a new project, and one of the new functionalities that we added is a better support for Linux-based platforms. Linux-based platform, in that case, that means that you have now the possibility also, depending on the installation of course, to select a proper Linux OpenGL platform package and build environments or ready to use project template that enables you to get started immediately. And as of now, I'm just selecting this one with 480 by 272. Now, someone might ask, and just a demo version 11, someone might ask, yeah, but Embedded Wizard is still running within a Windows environment, and but when you're now addressing the MPU with Linux-based environments, how do you take care about that? Well, we have also added new stuff in order to let Embedded Wizard run entirely inside our Linux-based environments. And for that, please go to the website and read documentation there, as this is now supported, which is, from my point of view, really great stuff. So, what did we add here? First of all, let's just jump into a unit. And one of the first things that you might recognize is that a couple of things are now grayed out, depending on the opened view inside the composer that you're currently looking at. So for example, when going to the unit application, then you see that I can only add or the class and the constant are not grayed out and are enabled, and this indicates that only these type of components and members can be added to the current view. So for example, you can drag and drop a class, I think that's obvious, into a unit or a constant, but as you can see, there's no possibility to add a method, for example. So this one is grayed out, and this one doesn't only belong to Chora, but also, for example, into the views, which can be added, of course, but this one would imply that you create auto objects, so already an instance of a class. So things that cannot be added, like a vertical list in that case, are grayed out. And some additional features, and this one, sorry, just this one depends really where you are inside the view, inside the composer. For example, in the project, then you see that it's not possible to add any views directly into a project. Only units can be added, for instance, or some other things like languages, styles, profiles, etc., but not the whole set. And this one is now dependent on the current view. So when going now to the unit application, just as an example, something that has now been added as well is this search bar here, the search edit field here, which gives you some kind of a filter. And for example, when I type in image, then everything related to an image is now filtered out, and this gives you a better view to select the proper element, member into your view, depending what you desire to do. So for example, in that one, I want to have a bitmap resource. You can drag and drop that, and here it is. And this one is a new functionality which improves significantly the overall workflow inside an Embedded Wizard UI project. Anyway, this is just some smaller additions inside the studio itself. So when dealing with different kind of views, now from the gallery perspective, from the template. But something that I'd like to show is definitely the new templates or the reworked templates that we have added now in Embedded Wizard version 11. Templates, these are ready to use components. So that means dedicated elements that take care about a certain feature. So for example, a push button, when you drag and drop that and double click on that, then you can see how a push button is implemented. This does not follow any design, so that means it's in this case now it's very simple one. That means by pressing this push button just switches off the color here from white to red, but it is fully implemented in terms of touchscreen or listening to touchscreen events, key events. It has some take care about the state management, etc., and gives you now the big flexibility to adapt the UI control depending on your need. And as you probably might know this push button was already there, and some other widgets, like for example the gauge element as well. These are elements that have already been added in previous version of Embedded Wizard, but we did not sleep and spend the time to add new stuff. And one of the things that I really like to mention are mainly the menu system. So that means if you want to create a menu system inside your GI application, then this component might be a good starting point in order to adapt that according to your needs. Another thing that I'd like to show is the so-called combo box, which was also sometimes requested quite often. And as you can see, not only the elements as a templates have been added into this unit. No, not only those, also a small example. So if you do not need that example, just remove that, of course. But just now for showing that it's easy to open that. Opening that, pressing on the play button to start the prototyper, gives you now a nice functionality to see how these this combo box, for example, is implemented, how this is used inside your view and can be used very out of the box according to your needs, and gives you the flexibility to be adapted to your desires. Next to those combo box functionalities, there's also a so-called ListBox element available inside the template bar, or elements depending on the menu system. But something which is also new, and this has been reworked, is functionality to display charts. So for example, a bar chart is now available as a dedicated template, also with a small example, and this gives you just a feeling how this bar chart is implemented and used within Embedded Wizard. Another example is of course line chart. I'm just tidying up a little bit as there's just too many annotations right now. So line chart goes there. Here we have different examples, and that one. So and this one shows the line chart, for example. We often receive the question, now you have a chart or chart examples, but I want to do a graph, some displaying data, sometimes real-time data. How is this, or can this be implemented? And for that we have now added a dedicated graph template, which gives the users the possibility to implement a data graph that shows different kind of data. Pressing on the play button, I just want to show you, when you now press, for example, this add data button here, then you see that values get pumped into this graph and are now scrolling. Of course, by scrolling inside the graph, this can be scrolled as well, and it also listens on multi-touch events when it comes to zooming. So for example, by holding down on my Alt key on my keyboard and pressing the one and the second one, that gives me two fingers here, and now by pressing the Shift key, you see it can be scaled depending on my current view very easily. So this one is just illustration about this new graph template. How this is, or this can be added, how this can be added with new functionalities depending on your needs is, as always, documented pretty well. So just read on it and you get helped. So this one goes now for the graph application, or for the graph example. And next thing I'd like to show are the improvements inside the Mosaic is when going to the main application. Sometimes we also recognize that how to deal with different screens and take care about screen transition is something which is not so easy to implement, and as you probably might know, we have added the so-called Dialog framework a couple of versions ago, but the API to use that is not very sexy when it's just only a couple of screens that needs to be shown, and therefore we try to reduce the overall API, or just to add an additional API with less functionality but for a very simple element. And for example, to show how this can be done, I'd like to add a very simple push button widget there and connect a slot method with it. So this is not new, this is old stuff, but I needed to show how this works, and just renaming it in show screen and opening that slot method. So what's new in Embedded Wizard version 11 is that there's a so-called active dialog property inside the root element of an application. So that means active dialog or active dialog class gives the possibility to assign a dedicated application, for example, example 3 element to this property, and by invoking that command, a new instance of this example 3, which relates to our freshly added graph application here, this one is instantiated, assigned to this active dialog, and shown properly. So that means by pressing on the play button and open the caption, then you have the functionality to show a new screen, which is now our new example 3 and can be used entirely. Adding new functionalities or adding new button and to switch to another active dialog would then imply to dismiss this dialog and start a new, present a new dialog instead of that one. So this is also a new nice functionality that has been added to Embedded Wizard 11. When looking at the project itself, so that means where all the units are stored, where the profile is set up, and by selecting now the profile, then you see a new property, the so-called font conversion. Per default, and in older versions, we are relying on the Windows Font API, and for compatibility issues, we stick to that. But it could be that you have, or you're licensing a platform package using the TrueType font rendering engine as an external TrueType font rendering engine. So that means the glyphs are not pre-rendered during compile time, but rendered during runtime. Then you would not see the same behavior because the TrueType font engine it gives a little bit other aspects as the Windows font engine, which is usually then relates to the FreeType rendering engine. And what we have now added is the functionality to really switch between these different rendering engines. So that means the Windows type is the default one, but you can switch to the FreeType. And then FreeType is used to generate the glyphs, and this is also implied or already shown during runtime inside the prototyper, of course. So this one goes to the font conversion. By the way, we have also added more functionalities inside the platform package to let you define where dedicated font data resources are located inside your Flash sections. So linker scripts can be modified so that you have more flexibility. This takes care about the font data or also for the string data, and of course in older versions there was also the bitmap data. So now you have a great flexibility and power to locate different data into your Flash at any position. Another thing that we have added or changed or improved is the stuff about documentation. Documentation was previously done during the compressed Windows help file system, so that at the end a CHM file is generated. We have removed that so that now a pure HTML file is generated. So selecting all, show you how this or what does this imply. So selecting now all the units to be generated or taken care about the documentation generation, and now as said, not a CHM file is generated but a HTML file is generated, taking care about the whole documentation of your project. By clicking on that, then you see all the classes that are used inside your application, inside your main application or your own units, and depending what you have added to your system, then the proper application documentation is generated and can be used for your further reference. When generating stuff, one most important feature of this new version that we changed and improved is the overall generation process when it comes to generate sources to your embedded system. We did a lot of improvements in terms of the Chora compiler and the graphics engine and runtime environment, so the platform package, in order to shrink the memory footprint a lot. How is this applied? How can this be seen? Unfortunately, now showing this something is something that doesn't make much sense, but I have prepared a build report which is generated with every application process, or every process of a UI generation process, and this one now belongs to embedded user 10. This is a very simple Hello World application, which Win32 platform package, and as you can see, with the old version, the estimated total memory flash usage is roughly about 117 kilobyte. As said, we did a couple of optimizations. Oh, this one is release notes, sorry. We have here the build report for a new version, or for the same application, so really it's the same application, but now processed with embedded wizard 11, as you can see here. Also the same platform package, the same configuration, and as you see, from 117 kilobytes this went down to 95 kilobyte. This is not that much, of course, but as said, is only a very simple hello world, so that means a couple of text, one image and one rectangle, and that's it, nothing more, nothing less. And this overall really takes care about, or the optimization when taking care about your UI implementation. So you will not have a lot of effort, or you will not see a lot of improvements in terms of the font resources or the bitmap resources. This one stays the same, because this is already in the same manner, but all of your GUI logic and business logic and what the UI is made of, this one is taken into account very well. So that means in that particular size, or example, we have a size of 69 kilobyte in version 10, whereas now we have 47 kilobytes, so that means more than 20 kilobyte, and this now taken care to a percentage is in this example 1/3, which is a lot. And when you now think about your application and your own custom application, I think this is something which is really beneficial for your memory footprint at the end. Next to these optimization, which relates to the Chora compiler, we have also added optimization in terms of the graphics engine and the runtime environment. So for example, if you do not rely on drawing gradients, for example, or if you do not use compressed bitmap resources or compressed string resources like in this example, then you can instrumentalize the runtime environment, the graphics engine in more detail. So that means that those routines which are needed in order to draw a gradient or to decompress data, these can be fully eliminated, and this is of course also beneficial and has an impact on your memory flash footprint. This one, as said, is just now for the flash memory consumption, so one big aspect in version 11, but I just want to give you a brief update about all the release notes that we or the release that we have done in embedded wizard 11. So optimization, as just said, a lot of stuff inside the Chora compiler, dedicated functionalities to instrumentalize the graphics engine and runtime environment better. We have the Wine support or Linux support with the Studio. We have done new templates with the new functionality to filter dedicated views inside the gallery composers view, and tons of Mosaic improvements, and one just mentioned this active dialog class or active dialog property inside the root object. Font handling has been changed, as said, Windows and free type. You have now more functionality to define where font data is stored and where the font string sections are stored inside your flash, for example, and additional improvements and stuff like the removement of the CHM compiler as previously shown. And as always, there are bugs that are fixed. There were bugs that are fixed, and these are also documented. We have a couple of known issues, and that's it. Yeah, so just now switching on my webcam again. I really like to thank you. If you have any questions about this new release, please feel free to get in contact with us, either through the website or within our open community forum. We are there to help you. So if you have any question, please drop us a comment, and we'll be love to get in touch with you. So take care about yourself and see you soon. Bye bye.